Claudia.
Hey.
Hi, thank you for coming in today. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Good,
Yeah.
good. All right. So let's start our session with a mindfulness exercise. We'll do a body scan today.
Okay.
All right. So let's close our eyes. Okay. Take a deep breath. Okay. Great. So how was that for you?
It was pretty good. I definitely become aware of more, places in my body. So I always like that. It's pretty interesting. But it definitely brings like more attention to my knee pain.
Okay.
So, it's not to the point where it's so excruciating, but it definitely, like I'll notice another place in my body, but then it goes right back to my knee.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
All right. So it sounds like maybe your mind was wandering a little bit during the exercise, which is completely normal, and that's fine.
Okay.
You just got to remember to be, when those thoughts come in or when that awareness comes in, just non-judgmentally recognize it, know that it's there, and then kind of bring your mind back to the
Gotcha.
exercise, okay?
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Okay, so let's just review a little bit about what we did during our last session.
Okay.
So we talked about some of those painful thoughts and feelings that you were having, and for your homework, you were going to make a list of some of those feelings. So can you show me the list or maybe share some of those items on there with me?
Sure. So some of the painful thoughts and feelings I get is definitely like my feelings of like worthlessness. Just feel like, I don't know, I'm like just not enough. No matter what I do is never enough, and and that also leads into me, feeling, just like I feel bad about it, about stuff, also like I feel guilty because I'm trying to do, so many things at once, but I also want to do some things for myself, and it's always hard. Like I'm just, that balance is hard, and I just don't like letting people down, and I feel like that's all I do is let people down.
Yeah, but I mean, you are working very hard. You've come to every session, you're practicing your exercises at home and doing the homework. But yeah, I can totally see how you would feel worthless, or maybe like you're letting other people down because you don't feel like you're doing enough. But you do have a lot on your plate right now. So. Okay. So some of the list items on your list were worthlessness, so feeling guilty, feeling like you're not doing enough and letting others down. Okay. And so let's talk about some of those feelings more today. Okay. When you are having those feelings, what are some things that you do, or maybe that you have done before, to kind of deal with those feelings and the pain and the thoughts that come about?
Well, like when I feel like I'm letting people down, I'll like ignore them because I don't want to like face them, because I feel just like really like ashamed that I couldn't be there for them or help them or whatever it is, especially like with my family. I just like feel this like responsibility to them, that I need to be there and I need to help them. And so when I can't do that, then, I ignore them because I just don't want to like face the music, So I won't call them, or I'll ignore their text messages, or I'll ignore their calls, or won't go visit them. And then the same kind of thing happens like at work. Maybe I didn't like meet a certain deadline, or if someone came and asked me like for help and I couldn't because I was so busy, and I hate saying no to people. So then that makes me feel bad, and so if I wasn't able to help them out, or I, missed a deadline or whatever, like I'll ignore them too. I like try to like avoid them as much as possible.
Okay.
So yeah.
So it sounds like you try to avoid the people or the situations that bring about those feelings, and kind of bring them up, and make you feel those feelings of worthlessness, of guilt, of shame. Are there other things that you have tried before to maybe deal with those thoughts and feelings?
maybe some good and not so good things. Like, sometimes, like, it just depends. Like, if I'm not feeling too overwhelmed or whatever, like, I know I kind of like, okay, I need to just go take a break. So
Okay.
maybe I'll like go take a walk or something. And I usually like that. But if I'm feeling like super overwhelmed and I'll drink and I end up, like it feels good and then I just, all of a sudden, like I'm drunk, because I do forget about, all that stuff. Like I'm not thinking about it. It's not occupying my mind. So, but then I drink too much and that leads to problems.
Okay. So avoiding situations where people taking a break, recognizing that you need to take a break sometimes, but then also drinking alcohol. And sometimes so much so that you feel drunk or you get very drunk and kind of forget about everything.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so thinking about those three things that you've done in the past, how have they worked for you?
I mean, like the drinking feels good. Like I feel like I'm having fun and I like that I'm not really thinking about stuff. But it just sucks like the next morning because like I'll have a hangover or, you know, my family gets really mad at me after that too. But the walking always feels good.
Okay.
So that, but I can't always do that because it just depends like where I am or how much time I have. Sometimes I get these like looks from people at work, like, well, where's she going? Like, why is she going to walk? Kind of thing. So I feel judged for like trying to take a break.
And that kind of deters you from actually going on a walk, which it sounds like you enjoy.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like you've tried, the drinking, the walking, and also the other activity that you mentioned. So some of these things that you've used, it sounds like maybe you're trying to get rid of those feelings, but they kind of end up coming back,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So in the short term, sometimes it works. It makes you feel better. You forget about your problems, but in the long run, it sounds like once you sober up, or once you're back from your walk, or once you stop isolating, these feelings and thoughts come back. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, and it feels like it like more intense like later too. So
So
yeah.
they come back stronger. Okay. All right. So what would you say is the cost of using these, maybe the drinking, the walking? What are some of the costs?
Well, definitely like my family's trust. They don't trust me when I drink because I always say, no, I'm just, laying off some steam. I'm only going to drink like one, maybe two drinks. I'm not going to, do anything crazy. And I say that every single time, and that usually isn't what happens. And then, yeah, so I think the biggest thing is like with my family is like losing their trust. But they just don't understand like all the things that are going on with me. So, yeah, and then with like work, now I've noticed that people are kind of like isolating for me. So I've noticed that people aren't talking to me as much anymore. So
So it sounds like it's affected both your relationships with your family, but then also at work with maybe
Yeah.
some of your coworkers or some of your peers.
yeah,
Okay. And yeah, so it sounds like, you are really struggling with these thoughts, these painful feelings and emotions, and the things that you've tried in the past maybe have worked for some time, but they haven't worked to eliminate these thoughts and feelings completely, right? And that's always a struggle that we're going to have. These painful feelings and emotions, they can't really go away. It's normal to feel, guilty sometimes, to feel shameful sometimes, feel like that you're not doing enough, and with all the responsibilities that you have and the hard work that you're putting into these things, feeling like you can get rid of them would be great, right? If they were gone completely, then that would be wonderful. But obviously, like you said, they come back stronger, you feel more pain, you feel the emotions in a stronger way. So what I'd like for you to do as part of your homework for next week is think of a metaphor that we're going to talk about right now, okay? So think of this rope tugging metaphor. So imagine that you're on one end of the rope and on the other end of the rope is a monster. What would you name this monster? This is your monster.
I don't know. Guess Fugly.
Fugly. Okay. All right. So your monster Fugly. So you're on one side of the rope and Fugly the monster is on the other side. And you're pulling. You're both pulling. So as you pull harder, the monster pulls harder. And as you get closer to the pit and pull harder to get back, the monster pulls harder. So you're both constantly struggling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think you should do in this situation where you're both struggling to pull the rope?
Well, I don't want to lose and I don't want to
Okay.
give up.
All right.
So I want to keep fighting with him for the rope.
Yeah.
Cause I can't back down.
Yeah. So your instinct will say pull harder.
Yeah.
But what happens when you pull harder?
Well, he pulls harder and it's like we're kind of just like going back and forth. Yeah.
So then all this energy that you're putting into pulling harder and you're not really getting anywhere because the monster's also pulling you back. What do you think about that?
Yeah. You're right. It is a lot of energy.
Okay.
But I gotta win.
And, it would be great if we could always win and get those feelings out completely. But maybe think of that metaphor during the week. When you have those thoughts and feelings, think of Fugly the monster and the struggle that you are in, all the energy that you're putting into that struggle, all the time that's being consumed by the struggle, and maybe think about dropping the rope, right? If you drop the rope, what happens?
Oh, we're not struggling anymore.
You're not struggling anymore. The monster's on the other side. It's there, but it's on the other side. It's not harming you. It's just kind of, it helps you realize that the problems and the things that you're dealing with are there, but you can choose not to struggle with them. Okay?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Totally went over time.
Okay.